Hello there people, this is Bruce Bickle or nintenbruce here, back again with another deck recipe for Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's Decade Duels Plus. And again, this is another one that I want to make a current version of, as this beautiful little guy here, he barely sees any play either, and his effect is immense. So I'll get onto that in a minute. The name of the deck, Dark Spirits, mainly because there isn't enough characters in the game to name it what I wanted, but I'll get into what that's all about shortly. So, without further ado, let's go through the monsters and then the spells and the traps, and we'll just go from there. So, as always, there's a Cyber Dragon and a Dandylion with these sorts of decks where you need tribute fodder on the field. Can't go wrong with them. One Dark Arm Dragon, goes without saying, beautiful little card, special summon it out, blow everything up and then do your bidding. And then 3 Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi, so this is the main card of the deck. There is another one which is quite nice, but this is what you're aiming for overall. So with spirit monsters, for those of you that don't know, at the end of a turn that it is either being summoned or flipped face up, it then returns to the owner's hand. So that's the one downside for it, but its effect, it's game changing completely. So its effect, when it causes battle damage, the opponent discards their entire hand before the next draw phase, or rather just before the next draw phase. So, say you've attacked in your turn, your opponent's about to draw, they lose their entire hand just because you've caused battle damage. And for the amount of stars it is, 2800 attack as well as 2900 defense is very, very decent, comparing it on average with things like Blue Eyes White Dragon and the like. So yeah, definitely run 3 of these. The idea of this deck is to try and get this guy out as quick as possible and just restrict your opponent's options. So yeah, beautiful card. 3 Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi, 1 Marshmallon, again there for tribute fodder really and just to be a pain in the backside. 3 Mystic Tomatoes, again for that field presence really, and 1400 attack isn't too bad either. 1 Plaguespreader, Sangan, a Spirit Reaper, just like Marshmallon, only slightly weaker. 3 Tragoedia, because you will have those duff hands, and on that front the change of monster as well effect is quite good, and you've got a bit of everything here. You've got 8 stars, 7 stars, etc, etc, so you should be able to aim for any of your opponent's monsters unless it's a stupidly high level. And then 2 Yamata Dragon. Now I don't run 3 of these because that's going a bit insane on the tribute fodder for the deck, but its effect, when it causes battle damage, just like Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi, then you draw until you have 5 cards. So only downside of it is you could deck yourself out with it, but that's very, very unlikely. And the point of this, because there's not as many monsters in this deck, and if you haven't joined into Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi yet, is you can set a load of stuff, cause the damage with Yamata Dragon, and hopefully you'll draw into Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi. So brilliant, brilliant little card there. And look at it, even for 7 stars, 3100 defense. So even if someone does bring out something like a Blue Eyes White Dragon, and they know you've obviously set your double tribute monster, they're still thinking that they're going to be able to overcome it, because not many people at all run 3000 defense monsters, let alone 3100. And even though it's just 100 damage, you'd still be drawing up to 5 cards. So do not be shy on this card whatsoever. And that's it for the monsters. So like I say, very short on the monster front. Spell wise, we have a Book of Moon, so you don't have to just use it on your opponent, you can use it on your spirit monster as well, just before it goes back to your hand, or whatever other situation you fancy. Brain Control, obviously grab your opponent's monsters for obvious reasons. 1 Card Destruction if you have a really, really duff hand. Foolish Burial to put either Dandylion in or Plaguespreader, etc, etc. Aim the Darks for Dark Arm Dragon if you wanted to. Now 3 Forbidden Chalice, again another card which I don't use often, so I will explain it to you guys. Its effect, you can target any monster and increase its attack by 400, but it does lose its effect that it's got for the rest of the turn. Now with that, you're going to want to try and aim it on Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi or Yamata Dragon, because you get its effect for, say for example, you're in a battle, you get Yamata Dragon's effect, and then it's about to be the end phase where it turns to your hand. You activate Forbidden Chalice on it, and it loses its effect of going back to your hand. And the thing with these spirits is, it's only the turn that it's being flipped face up or summoned that it goes back to your hand. So when it becomes your second turn with it on the field, it's just going to sit there, even without another Forbidden Chalice. It's beautiful, it's absolutely beautiful. So 3 of those definitely. few staples: Giant Trunade, Heavy Storm, 3 Mausoleum of the Emperor. Without a shadow of a doubt, you need 3 of these because you want to get those spirits out as quick as possible. 2,000 life points sounds pretty beastly and ghastly to try and use up, but the effect of Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi is well worth it. Even Yamata Dragon as well. So you'll only be able to use this a couple of times before it becomes useless. 1 Monster Reborn, Mystical Space Typhoon, a pot of Avarice in there as well to either put those spirits back in the deck or anything else you fancy, Mystic Tomatoes especially. Spiritualism. Now this is like Night Beam in the actual game. I won't even consider Night Beam actually, you guys are here for Decade Duels, so, but if you are into the actual game then yeah, use Night Beam instead of Spiritualism. Spiritualism, return 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls to the hand. This card's activation and effect cannot be negated. Now you're probably thinking, well Bruce, why do I just want to, lose a card essentially? It's just temporarily getting rid of an opponent's card that they're going to set next turn. Not if you use Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi. So Spiritualism clears the field and you get to put the card back into the graveyard with Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi. Yes, lovely. 1 Sword of Kusanagi. It can be very effective. You only need 1 and it's there to get through those decks which rely on Spirit Reapers, Marshmallons, a lot of stalling in a nutshell. So this would help your monster cut through the defence. And what happens is, if your spirit monster goes back to the hand, then so does this card as long as it hits the graveyard, so remember that. 1 Terraforming as well to find your Mausoleum of the Emperor. Very, very important, those cards. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to get your spirit monsters out in the field as soon as possible and take early advantage. Going into the traps now, just in case things don't go your way, you've got a Mirror Force, you've got a Torrential Tribute, and then 2 Royal Decrees, because you really don't want your spirit effects not happening. So shutting down your opponent as early as possible is what it's all about here. And that is it for Dark Spirits, the main deck anyway. Going to the extra deck, it's bog standard as I always say. Have a good little look there. I mean, you guys know how an extra deck works by now. Side deck, you're not really going to be using this often, but I'll show you anyway. 1 Morphing Jar there doesn't necessarily become a bad thing if your opponent draws from it, because if you have Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi, again, there goes their hand. 1 Treeborn Frog if you're not going to be using your Royal Decrees and not having a Mausoleum of the Emperor out. Book of Eclipse, again, puts everything face down and gets the opponent to draw. Doesn't matter if you use Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi. A double summon, it can be very, very handy, but it isn't main deck worthy. So its effect, you can do an extra normal summon for the turn. Beautiful. So if you special summon Plaguespreader out, summon Mystic Tomato or Sangan, and then use the double summon to get the spirit monster out there. And like I say, not main deck worthy, but it can be handy. Another Foolish Burial there as well. That could be quite handy to bung something into the graveyard. 2 Gold Sarcophagus if you're really unlucky in finding those spirit monsters. My Body as a Shield if your opponent runs a lot of destruction effects. 1500 life points again is nothing compared to keeping your spirits on field. An extra pot of Avarice. An extra Sword of Kusanagi for those Staller type decks to cut through the defense and cause bleeding damage. Trap-wise, 2 Bottomless Trap Holes and a Dimensional Prison if you're going to side out your Royal Decrees. 1 Return from a Different Dimension, and as always, if your opponent is really trap heavy, then you're definitely going to want to bung the 3rd Royal Decree in there. And that is the deck. So Dark Spirits, like I say, this guy, Hino-Kagu-Tsuchi, not used as often as it should, and it's a brilliant effect. Remember, its effect happens at the next nearest draw phase. So yeah, beautiful, beautiful card. So, pop your thoughts and comments in the section below. Let me know what you think of it all. Definitely give it a whirl as always, as this is an original deck. And until next time guys, you take care, and I will see you again soon.